You leaving already?
Got that meeting with the partners, babe?
Sarah asked, her voice husky with sleep. David replied, adjusting his tie in the mirror.
Big day.
Sarah sat up in bed, pulling the sheet to her chest. She tried to hide her disappointment. Another day, another missed breakfast.
Right, good luck.
But her eyes betrayed her, a flicker of something heavier than fatigue clouding her gaze. David left, the scent of his cologne lingering like a forgotten promise. The room felt emptier without him, the silence more pronounced. His departure was not just a physical absence, but an emotional void that seemed to echo through the walls. The suitcase he carried was a symbol of the distance growing between them, a distance that was more than just miles. Sarah sighed, pushing back the covers. The bed felt colder, the sheets a reminder of the warmth that used to be there. She sat up, her mind clouded with thoughts of what could have been. The mornings were the hardest, the start of another day without him. She missed the small moments, the shared coffee, the morning banter that now seemed like a distant memory. It was always work, always meetings. David's job had become a third person in their relationship, demanding more of his time and energy. The late nights at the office, the endless conference calls, they all took a toll. Sarah felt like she was competing with a ghost, an invisible force that was pulling David away from her. She wished for the days when work was just a part of their lives, not the center of it. She wished they had more time together, just the two of them. The walks in the park, the quiet evenings on the sofa, those were the moments she cherished. But now, they were few and far between. The demands of life had stolen those precious times, leaving behind a sense of longing and regret. She missed the connection, the feeling of being truly seen and heard. The day stretched before her, long and empty. The hours seemed to drag, each minute a reminder of his absence. She wandered through the apartment, each room a testament to the life they once shared. The kitchen table where they had their meals, the living room where they watched movies, all now felt like relics of a past life. She felt lost, adrift in a sea of memories. The silence in the apartment felt heavy, suffocating. It was a silence that spoke volumes, a silence that was louder than any noise. It was the silence of unspoken words, of feelings left unsaid. Sarah felt it pressing down on her, a weight that was hard to bear. She longed for the sound of his voice, the laughter that used to fill the rooms, but now, there was only silence.
Sarah yearned for the easy laughter. The kind of laughter that came effortlessly, that was a part of their everyday life. She missed the jokes, the playful teasing, the shared moments of joy. It was those moments that made their relationship special, that made her feel truly alive. But now, those moments were just memories, fading with each passing day, and shared moments that once filled their home. The dinners with friends, the family gatherings, the simple pleasures of being together. Those were the times that defined their life, that gave it meaning. But now, the house felt empty, the laughter replaced by a deafening silence. She missed the sense of belonging, the feeling of being part of something bigger than herself. Instead, she found herself staring out the window, a wave of loneliness washing over her. The city below was alive, bustling with activity, but she felt disconnected from it all. The people, the noise, the energy, it all seemed so distant, so out of reach. She felt like an outsider, looking in on a world that she was no longer a part of. The loneliness was overwhelming, a constant companion that she couldn't shake off. The city below seemed to pulse with a vibrancy she couldn't quite grasp. It was a stark contrast to the emptiness she felt inside. The streets were filled with people, each one with their own story, their own life. But to Sarah, it all felt like a blur, a cacophony of sounds and sights that she couldn't connect with. She longed for the days when she felt a part of it all, when the city's energy was a source of excitement, not a reminder of her isolation.
Later that afternoon, Sarah bumped into Mr. Rodriguez, their elderly neighbor, in the hallway. He was struggling with a heavy package.
"Let me help you with that, Mr. Rodriguez,"
Sarah offered, her innate kindness shining through. As they chatted, the strains of music drifted from his apartment. He confessed it was his wife's favorite song and he missed dancing with her. On a whim, Sarah took his hand, leading him in a graceful waltz. For a few moments, the world felt lighter, full of life and laughter. Back in her apartment, the weight of her own reality came crashing down. Work emails piled up, demanding her attention. The dance, the music, felt like a distant memory.
She thought of David, likely enjoying a fancy lunch with his colleagues. Did he ever think of her during those lunches, those meetings? Or was she just an afterthought, a footnote in his busy schedule? Frustration welled up inside her. She deserved more, she thought, more than stolen moments and empty promises.
That evening I came home, a whirlwind of apologies and hurried explanations. I have good news, I said. Great news. They're sending me to Paris. A whole month, Sarah. Can you believe it?
Paris? A month without me?
Sarah froze, the words catching in her throat. Paris. A month. Without her. The world seemed to tilt on its axis, her carefully constructed reality crumbling around her.
Paris?
She echoed, her voice barely a whisper.
But what about us? We were going to take that cooking class together, remember?
It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Sarah. Don't you see? This could be huge for my career.
And what about us?
She repeated, her voice shaking with unshed tears. A seed of doubt, planted long ago, began to sprout in her heart.
Don't be like that, Sarah. It's just a month. I'll be back before you know it.
He looked at her then, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. The next day, Sarah found herself pouring her heart out to Mike, her colleague and confidant. He listened patiently, his kind eyes reflecting her own hurt and confusion. They sat together in their favorite cafe, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee a small comfort. Mike always knew how to make her feel heard, understood.
He's going to Paris, a whole month, and he didn't even hesitate.
She said, her voice thick with emotion.
He's a fool, Sarah. You deserve the world. Someone who wouldn't dream of leaving your side.
His words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken feelings.
Mike.
Her voice was a mix of warning and longing, but he silenced her with a look. The call came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. The world stopped. The rain outside seemed to mock Sarah's pain, each drop a hammer blow to her already shattered heart. It was true, all of it. She hung up the phone, her hand trembling. The betrayal cut deep, a wound that went beyond words, beyond tears. S4, media, woman beginning to cry, woman wiping tears, woman breaking down emotionally. Sarah, I had to tell you, he's not alone in Paris, he's with me.
Don't insult me with your lies. You think I wouldn't find out? You think I'm that naive? I know about you and Lisa. I saw the messages, the late-night calls. How could you do this to us? Get out. S2. Media. Confused man asking questions. Man with puzzled look while woman looks determined. What's this? What's going on? Sarah, please, let's talk about this.
David came home to find his suitcases packed, waiting for him by the door. The sight was surreal, like a scene from a nightmare he couldn't wake up from. His face, flushed with excitement from his trip, drained of color as he saw the look on Sarah's face. It was a look he had never seen before, a mix of betrayal and resolve. He tried to speak, to explain, but the words died on his lips. What could he say that would make this right? The truth was out, and there was no going back. The truth hung heavy in the air between them, suffocating, undeniable. It was as if the walls of their home were closing in, the weight of their shared history pressing down on them. They had shared so many happy moments, built a life together that now seemed like a distant memory. The laughter, the dreams, all overshadowed by this one moment of betrayal. Sarah had spent the entire afternoon packing his things, each item a painful reminder of the life they had built together. Tears streamed down her face, but she knew this was something she had to do. David sat on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands. He felt a deep sense of loss, not just for Sarah, but for the man he used to be. How had he let things get this far? Sarah stood by the window, looking out at the world beyond. She felt a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, but also a strange sense of relief. She had taken control of her life, made a decision that was right for her. They finally sat down to talk, the conversation long overdue. It was painful, but necessary. They spoke about their feelings, their regrets, and the future that now seemed so uncertain. As David left the house, suitcases in hand, he took one last look at Sarah. She stood in the doorway, a silent witness to the end of their relationship. It was a moment neither of them would ever forget. Sarah sat alone in the living room, the silence almost deafening. She knew the road ahead would be tough, but she also knew she had made the right choice. It was time to pick up the pieces and move forward. David walked down the street, the weight of his actions heavy on his shoulders. He looked back at the house one last time, knowing that he had lost something precious. But he also knew that this was a turning point, a chance to reflect and hopefully to change. As the sun rose over the city, it symbolized a new beginning for both of them. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was also filled with possibilities. They had both learned valuable lessons, and now it was time to start anew.
It's over. He chose her.
He made a mistake, Sarah, a big one, but it's his loss, not yours.
Later that week, Sarah met Mike at their cafe. He enveloped her in a hug, his warmth a balm to her wounded soul. He didn't need words, didn't offer empty platitudes, he just held her, his presence enough. Mike looked at her then, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and something else, something that made her heart beat a little faster. Hope.
She realized now that she had lost herself somewhere along the way, subsumed by her role as David's wife. But no more. She was done playing the victim. She would rise from the ashes of her broken heart, stronger, more resilient than ever before.
The days that followed were a blur of tears and anger, moments of crippling doubt, punctuated by surprising bursts of strength. Sarah threw herself into her work, her dance classes, anything to keep her mind and body occupied.
She danced with a newfound freedom, a sense of liberation that she had never felt before. Each movement was a testament to her journey, a journey that had been filled with trials and tribulations, but also moments of pure joy and discovery. She twirled and spun, her feet barely touching the ground as if she were floating on air, a lightness in her step that came from within. She was starting over, shedding the weight of her past and embracing the possibilities of the future. Every twirl, every leap was a declaration of her newfound strength and resilience. She was no longer bound by the chains of her past, but was free to create her own destiny. Embracing the unknown with open arms, she felt a sense of exhilaration. The unknown was no longer something to fear, but something to welcome with excitement and anticipation. She stretched her arms wide as if to embrace the entire universe, feeling a connection to something greater than herself. The future was hers to write, a blank canvas waiting for her to paint with the colors of her dreams and aspirations. She stood on the hilltop, looking out into the horizon, feeling a sense of infinite possibilities. The world was her oyster, and she was ready to dive in and explore all that it had to offer. And she would dance to the rhythm of her own heart, a rhythm that was uniquely hers. The setting sun cast a golden glow on the field, creating a magical backdrop for her dance. She moved with grace and elegance, her heart beating in sync with the music of her soul.
One evening, Sarah found herself back in the hallway, a place that held so many memories. The dimly lit hallway was quiet, except for the faint strains of music drifting from Mr. Rodriguez's apartment. It was a familiar tune, one that she had heard many times before. He opened the door, a sad smile on his face. The music was a reminder of happier times, times when his wife was still with him. He stood there, looking at Sarah with a mixture of sadness and hope. A sad smile on his face, he invited her in. The apartment was filled with memories, photographs of a life well lived. He looked down, his eyes filled with tears, but there was also a glimmer of hope in his gaze. His wife had passed away, leaving a void that could never be filled. He sat alone, holding a photograph of her, looking at the empty chair where she used to sit. The pain of her loss was still fresh, but he found solace in the memories they had shared.
Come, dance with me, Sarah. He extended his hand, a gesture of hope and healing. It was a way to honor his wife's memory, to keep her spirit alive through the dance. It's what she would have wanted. He looked at the framed picture of his wife, a tear rolling down his cheek. She had always loved to dance, and he knew that she would have wanted him to find joy in the dance, even in her absence.
And so Sarah danced. She danced with a sense of purpose, a sense of connection to something greater than herself. The empty room was filled with the echoes of her movements, each step a tribute to the love and memories that Mr. Rodriguez held dear. She danced for Mr. Rodriguez, for his wife, for herself. The hallway was transformed into a place of healing and hope, a place where the past and the present came together in a beautiful dance of love and remembrance, for his wife, for herself. She held the photo frame with the picture of the elderly couple, feeling a deep sense of connection to their love story. It was a reminder that love transcends time and space, and that the dance of life continues, even in the face of loss.